I let my chronically late wife miss an event she was looking forward to by not rushing her. Because I wanted her to face consequences. My wife and I have been together for 5 years. Married for 3. I love her. But one thing that has always driven me absolutely insane is how late she is for everything. Not occasionally late, not fashionably late, like, we're running into the reception while the vows are halfway done kind of late. And it's not like she loses track of time, or is overwhelmed with responsibilities. She's chronically late because she gets caught up taking Instagram photos and curating little influencer setups for everything we do. She's trying to build her platform. I support her hustle, I do. But she treats every small event like a full production shoot if we're going out. She sets up lights, camera angles, mirror pics, poses on the stairs, changes outfits, changes again. And all this while knowing exactly what time we need to leave. I used to try to help her manage her time better. I'd lie until her event started 30 to 45 minutes earlier so we could show up reasonably on time. It worked, but it was exhausting. She never noticed because she was so wrapped up in her routine. A few weeks ago, I told her I was done with that. I told her straight up. I wasn't lying about times anymore. If we needed to be somewhere at 6 o'clock, I was going to tell her 6 o'clock, not 5:15, not 5:30. She laughed and brushed me off like I'd never follow through. She even made some joke about how I caved like always. But I didn't. This past weekend was her birthday. As a surprise, I got us tickets to a big event featuring a few of her favorite artists. One of them, her top favorite, was scheduled to perform in the first act. She talked about it for weeks, made playlist reels, did a birthday countdown, bought a dress specifically for this performance. I told her the event started at 6:30, and we had to leave by 5:45 to make it through parking and security. I didn't say it started earlier. I didn't buffer her with any cushion. I figured that being her own birthday, and all, maybe she'd finally take my words seriously. She didn't. She spent the afternoon decorating our room for birthday, aesthetics, setting up photo shoots, filming stories, changing outfits, doing full makeup twice because she didn't like the way her eyeliner turned out the first time. I reminded her at 5 o'clock we needed to leave at 5:45. She nodded and said she was almost done at 6:10. She was still putting rhinestones on her nails. I was already waiting in the car. We walked into the venue at 7:10. Her favorite artist had just finished their last song. I watched her face drop when she heard the crowd chanting and saw the stage being cleared. She turned to me and said, "We missed it." I just said, "Yeah." She got quiet, then tired up, and asked why I didn't warn her. I reminded her that I had warned her weeks ago, that I was done babysitting her schedule. I wasn't going to lie anymore. I gave her the real time, and it was up to her to take responsibility for being ready, she said. But it's my birthday, and I told her I'm not a time-traveling assistant. I did what I said I was going to do. She cried through the next 2 performances. At one point, she asked if I had done this on purpose. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to engage in that fight in public. But yeah, part of me was relieved she was finally facing consequences. I'm not proud of that. But I'm being honest, the ride home was silent. When we got back, I went downstairs to use the bathroom, and she texted me while I was in there saying I wasn't welcome in the bedroom that night. I ignored the text. When I walked into our room, she was changing and looked furious. I told her it was her shared room, and if she was uncomfortable, she could sleep on the couch. She didn't say a word, just packed a bag and left for her mom's place. That was 2 days ago. The first night without her in the house felt unreal. The place was too quiet. Like the air itself was waiting for an argument that never came. Her makeup. Lights were still set up on the vanity. Half-used lashes lying on a tissue like she just stepped out for a second and would be back any minute. I slept maybe 3 hours, not because I missed her physically, but because my brain wouldn't shut up. I kept replaying her face at the venue. That moment when the realization hit her, the way the excitement drained out of her eyes, I didn't feel guilty for not lying. I felt guilty for enjoying the silence afterward. The next morning, I woke up to a long text from her mom. It wasn't angry, but it was loaded. She said my wife was deeply hurt, that birthdays were emotional for her, and that I could have handled things with more compassion. There was a lot about how my wife had always been sensitive, how she expressed herself creatively, how I knew that going in. I typed out a reply 3 times and deleted it each time. I didn't want to explain myself to someone who already had her version of the story. Later that day, my wife finally texted me herself. Not an apology, not a question. Just, "I can't believe you do that to me on my birthday." I stared at it for a long time. I wanted to respond defensively. I wanted to list every wedding, every dinner reservation, every movie premiere we've been late to because she just needed 5 more minutes. I wanted to remind her how many times I've been embarrassed standing alone, making excuses for her. Watching people stop believing me when I said she was on her way. But instead, I wrote, "I told you exactly what time we needed to leave." She didn't respond for hours. When she did, it was paragraphs. She said I'd humiliated her, that she trusted me to look out for her and I'd failed, that I knew how important that artist was to her and I still chose to let her miss it. She said it felt like punishment, like I was trying to teach her a lesson instead of being her partner. And that's when it hit me, she wasn't wrong about that part. It was a lesson. I just didn't think that made it unfair. I replied honestly. I told her I was exhausted, that constantly managing her time, lying about schedules, and absorbing the fallout of her lateness had turned me into something I didn't want to be. That I felt more like her handler than her husband. I told her. I loved her ambition, but I hated how everything in our lives had to orbit around content creation. Even moments that were supposed to be shared between us became backdrops. She called me after that. No yelling, just quiet, shaky breathing on the other end. She said she didn't realize how much pressure she put on me. Then, almost immediately, she followed it with, "But you still could have helped me that night." That's when I realized we were stuck in a loop. To her, help meant rescue. To me, help meant responsibility. She stayed at her mom's place for another 3 days. During that time, I noticed things I hadn't before. How calm my mornings were without the frantic rushing. How I didn't feel that low-grade anxiety watching the clock whenever we had plans. I missed her laugh. I missed her energy. But I didn't miss the chaos when she finally came home. We sat at the kitchen table like strangers negotiating a ceasefire. She said she felt betrayed. I said I felt invisible. She said being late was just part of who she was. I said constantly cleaning up after it was turning me resentful. Neither of us raised our voices. That almost made it worse. She suggested a compromise, that I go back to giving her buffer times, but she'd try harder. I told her I couldn't do that anymore, that lying, even for convenience, had built this false reality where she never had to deal with consequences. She didn't like that word, consequences. She said it made our marriage sound transactional. I told her marriage wasn't about shielding each other from reality. It was about walking through it together. That conversation didn't fix everything, but it changed the tone. For the first time, she admitted that being late wasn't just accidental. That part of her liked controlling the pace, liked knowing people would wait. She said hearing that out loud scared her. I appreciated that honesty more than any apology. We're still figuring it out. She set alarms now, real ones, not aesthetic reminders. She still takes photos, still films content, but she started doing it earlier, planning shoots instead of letting them spill into everything. I stopped reminding her constantly. If we're late now, it's on both of us to decide whether we leave anyway or miss something. Sometimes she still brings up her birthday. Sometimes I still think about that moment at the venue and feel a mix of regret and relief. I don't think either of us was completely right, or completely wrong. But I do know this: if I hadn't stopped rushing her, if I hadn't let her miss something she cared about, nothing would have changed. And maybe that makes me the bad guy in her story for a while. I can live with that. Story to my wife handed me divorce papers on Christmas Day. Then her entire family started cheering. But when she opened my gift, her face went white because inside was Chapter 1. The Christmas ambush. Christmas had always been sacred in our house. Twinkling lights, fresh pine, cinnamon candles, all that warm Hallmark stuff that made it feel like home every year. My wife Claire insisted on hosting the family, her overly smug brothers, her gossipy sisters, and of course, her parents who never really liked me. Still, I smiled through it because for 7 years, I genuinely believed I had married the love of my life. This year, though, something felt wrong. Claire had been distant for weeks, secretive with her phone, cold in bed, and passive-aggressive with every word. I tried talking. I tried surprising her with dates, but she always brushed me off with, "I'm just tired," or "work is draining." The truth came wrapped in red ribbon. We were sitting around the tree, her entire family buzzing with energy. I handed out gifts, thoughtful ones I picked over months, and received the usual socks and awkward sweaters in return. Then Claire stood up, cleared her throat dramatically, and handed me a single envelope. Everyone leaned forward like they were watching a reality TV finale. "Merry Christmas, Brad," she said with a too sweet smile. I opened it. Divorce papers. I stared, silent. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a prank. Then came the laughter. Her brothers clapped. Her sister whistled. Her mom actually high-fived Claire. "Took you long enough, sweetie," her dad said. They had all known, planned this. They thought I'd break down, beg her not to go, that I'd fall apart like some sitcom loser whose wife found herself. But instead, I smiled because I already knew. I had known for weeks, known about the affair, known that she'd been trashing me to her family to make herself the victim. known that she planned to humiliate me on the one day she thought I'd be too emotionally cornered to fight back. But I had come prepared. Thanks, I said quietly, folding the papers and setting them aside. I've got something for you, too. I reached behind the tree and pulled out a small velvet box, the kind that usually holds something beautiful. Her smirk returned. You think a little necklace is going to fix? She stopped when she opened the box, her face drained of color because inside was a tiny, sleek flash drive and taped beneath it a printed photo. Claire half naked in a motel room straddling her coworker. Chapter 2, The Drive That Destroyed Everything. For a moment, the room froze. Claire held the box like it was radioactive. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the flash drive and stared at the photo underneath. A crisp 4K still from a hidden camera. One glance told her everything. It was her in the Motel 6 near the office with Jeremy, her work husband, hands all over each other, not even trying to be subtle. What is this? She stammered. I leaned forward, calmly, sipping my eggnog. Your real Christmas gift, her brother Matt snorted. Nice Photoshop, man, so? I smiled wider. Why don't we plug it in? I walked over to the TV and slotted the flash drive into the media port. Claire lunged up from the couch, blurting, "Don't." But it was too late. The screen flickered to life. There they were, Claire and Jeremy in motion, kissing, undressing, laughing about how clueless I was. Claire's voice rang out clearly. He's like a golden retriever, loyal and dumb. He'll cry when I leave, and I'll still get half the house. Her family stared, mouths open. The room had gone silent, except for the high-def sound of her betrayal. Her father looked like he was about to vomit. Her mom clutched her pearls like we were in a soap opera. Matt. He just muttered. Jesus. Claire flew toward the TV, yanking the flash drive out. But the damage was done. The room had already seen enough. I turned to her slowly standing. Claire, you told me I was boring. You told me I wasn't ambitious. You said I'd never be anything without you. I pulled a thick envelope from my coat pocket and tossed it on the coffee table. That's the signed contract. I just sold the tech startup you never believed in for $3.4 million. All in my name, thanks to the prenup you insisted was just a formality. Claire's knees buckled as she sat back down. Her eyes were glassy, her mouth working silently. Her father broke the silence. Claire, is this true? She didn't answer, but her sister did. Holy SH, she whispered. You got played. I walked toward the front door, grabbing my coat. Oh? I added, pausing. Don't worry about splitting the house. I've already filed for divorce, citing adultery. You won't be getting it. Then I turned to her family. Merry Christmas. And I walked out, leaving Claire in a room full of judgmental eyes. Her fake victory turned to ashes. Chapter 3. No one came to save her. It only took 24 hours for the fallout to begin. By the time I checked into a quiet hotel just outside the city, Claire had already blown up my phone with 37 missed calls and a series of frantic texts. That swung wildly between rage and panic. You embarrass me. We can fix this. Please don't do this. People are calling me. I didn't reply, but others did in ways she never expected. The office affair that went viral. Remember Jeremy, her Oho slick affair partner? Yeah. Turns out he wasn't quite as clever as he thought. One of Claire's cousins, who saw the video, also worked at the same company. Guess who she sent it to? In less than a week, both Claire and Jeremy were suspended pending an internal ethics investigation. Their romantic rendezvous in that cheap motel room. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a breach of company conduct. Clients, confidential data, everything was at risk. 2 days later, Jeremy's wife posted screenshots of the video with names on Facebook. It exploded. The post reached over 10,000 shares in under 48 hours. Comments rolled in fast. Isn't she that operations director? Wow, didn't she post Bible quotes last week? Trash, both of them. By the end of the week, both Claire and Jeremy had been fired publicly. No soft exits, no mutual separation, lies gone. Her family turned cold. But that was just her professional life. Her personal one that disintegrated even faster. Her father didn't speak to her. Her mother texted me an apology. Even her sister, who had cheered during the divorce announcement, messaged me privately. I'm sorry. We didn't know. She lied to all of us. Claire was left with no allies. The same people who laughed with her just days before now pretended they barely knew her. And Jeremy vanished, blocked her on everything, changed his number, quit his job, and moved out of state with his wife. Apparently, when everything hit the fan, his wife gave him an ultimatum. Therapy, a move, or total exposure to his kids. He chose survival. Claire was ghosted not just by me, but by the one man she betrayed me for. Now she sat alone, unemployed, unwanted, and publicly exposed with every fake smile and cruel words she once uttered playing on loop in her own mind. Chapter 4. The knock on my door. It was a gray Sunday afternoon. I was making coffee in my new place, a modest apartment downtown, quiet and clean, with no trace of the past clinging to the furniture or the walls. The knock was soft, hesitant, but I knew who it was before I even opened the door. Claire. She looked like a shadow of the woman I'd once known. Eyes hollow, makeup smeared like she had applied it with trembling hands, lips dry and cracked. She clutched her coat like it was armor, but even that couldn't hide how broken she was. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Can I come in?" I said, nothing, just stepped aside. She walked in slowly, her eyes darting across the room as if searching for pieces of her former life, some photo, some souvenir. But there was nothing here for her. Nothing left. The final conversation. "I lost everything," she said, sitting down without being asked. "My job, my reputation, my family. Even Jeremy abandoned me. I've been sleeping in my cousin's basement. I have no one." I stayed silent. She looked up at me, desperate, eyes red-rimmed. "I know I made a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. But I swear I didn't mean to hurt you like this. You didn't just hurt me," I finally said. "You humiliated me, lied to me, used me." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I deserve everything that's happened. I know that now. But please, I need help. I just need a chance to start over." There it was. The real reason she had come. Not for love, not for regret. She came because she needed a lifeline. She thought I would be that lifeline, but I wasn't the same man she had left. The man who once bent over backwards for her smile. That man died the moment she handed me divorce papers and laughed with her family, like it was a party. I looked her in the eyes and said calmly, "I hope you do start over. I hope you rebuild something from all this. But you'll be doing it without me." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I walked to the door and opened it. "I forgave you a long time ago," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I forget what you are. And it doesn't mean you get to stay in my life." She stared, stunned. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I didn't gloat. I just gave her the one thing she truly feared: indifference. She stood up, broken, and walked out. And I closed the door. This time for good. Epilogue: Real revenge. The real revenge wasn't destroying her. It was becoming untouchable. It was building a new life without her. A life she could never step into again. She lost everything trying to chase what she thought was better. But I found peace by walking away, head held high while her world collapsed in silence. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real jaw-dropping pro-revenge stories. Share your thoughts in the comments.